What's up, everybody? It's your boy Shameless Reed from Nerd, from Need, Shame, Nerd, Lerd, Reed, from Shameless Reed, from Shame, Nerd, Less Reed, from Nerdless, Shame, Reed, Less, from Nerdless, Shame, from Reed, aka Reed, from Shameless Nerd. Modernity is hard, and many young people like myself are struggling. But we're no longer peasants who thanklessly till the local noble's land for a few shillings here and there. At least this is the central tenet in the rhetoric defending their disdain for the youth from many old people, who are increasingly frustrated with our complaints of depression and burnout and anxiety. My own grandparents were alive during the Great Depression, where people literally ate things like dandelion salad and buttered toast sandwiches. That would be a piece of toast in between two pieces of bread. It's hard for them to understand how a generation so pampered by their standards, so comfortable, so affluent, could be so sad. But I'll stop now and get to the but section, because I'm sure some of you are worrying this is like a pull yourself up by your bootstraps video, and I promise that's not the case. Our dandelion salad grandparents are right in that we're not coal mining for pennies a day while the oil barons make billions off our labor. Wait a second. Well, okay, fine, but we're not living in an economy of recession wherein our dollar's buying power is plummeted to next to nothing and we can't afford groceries. Hold on a minute. Well, okay, fine, but we're not entering a new era of advancements in technology and global connectedness that our puny lizard brains are struggling to comprehend, because we've lived for hundreds of thousands of years in groups of 10 to 100, surrounded by our extended families, and now all of a sudden we're living in a society where I know what's going on in rural China right now, and I can instantly communicate with 5.52 billion internet users at the touch of a button, and there's a magic box in my pocket whose sole purpose is to endlessly monetize my attention and has enlisted newly invented technologies that can process information faster than the human brain can even comprehend, and I'm raised in a social media culture where from the age of 8, children are expected to curate their personality for the consumption of people who they will never meet, perform an extended screenplay of their own existence as they write it, and can't afford to make any mistakes ever, and live every single day with a literal stage fright performance anxiety like an actor at an audition, except the audition is every single flattened digital transactional interaction in which they're forced to participate or be ostracized by their peers. Oh, wait a second! The issues of the modern day, the ones that are making us insane, because we are all the same problems that generations before us faced. And then there's this new issue of the internet and social media and algorithmically curated short-form content at our fingertips all the time, and algorithmically targeted ads, and the pressure to create a digital existence, but also be so incredibly careful about your digital footprint as you age because of how inherently cringy we are as adolescents, and how some of the things we used to say might ruin our careers now. If only there was video of it. Oh God, there's video of it! And one of the results of all these weird, novel, incomprehensible issues is this weird, super complicated and deep-seated feeling that an increasing number of people are experiencing right now. It's this slightly dissociative, empty, aimless feeling of inhumanness. It's this feeling of being exhausted, but internally so frantically grasping for something, for information, for entertainment, for satiation. This feeling that existence is shallow, this feeling of hopelessness, but you're not sure what exactly you're hopeless about. It's not depression, it's not fatigue, it's not despair, it's not pessimism, it's just this feeling that you're not real, or that this isn't real, but also that you know too much and things are too real. I haven't heard it even described perfectly, and I don't think I did here either, but I think many of you will know exactly what I'm talking about. In psychology, it's kind of like the mental illness symptom of hyper-awareness. I've heard it called existential boredom on some philosophy forum threads. Bo Burnham just called it that funny feeling. And none of these are quite right for it. It's like the idea of all of those combined. It's the feeling of not feeling like a human anymore, but not knowing what that even means, and then being frustrated by it. And to be aware of an issue but entirely unable to define it or to really even discern what the issue is makes it really difficult to address. However, I do think a certain unquantifiable but undeniable portion of this feeling, this phenomenon, is one of those things that's pretty apparent but just not something we want to approach because it's super convoluted, and within it are simultaneously the causes of our issue but also a bunch of really cool and fun things that we don't want to get rid of. I think a large portion of what's causing this illness is that we're living in a proxy for the real world. We're living in a world that our brains can't understand, and we're giving our brain what it intellectually thinks is scratching various itches or meeting certain needs, but intuitively, in a way that's not scientific or demonstrable, it's not really meeting our demands. We're tricking our brains into not knowing that they're not being nourished. We're drinking the idea of water and dying of thirst. For example, in one of my other videos, I talked about the issue of having all these problems solved for us in the modern day, and how our brains are wired to solve problems. And because it's not being used to do that, it can sometimes create bigger problems because all it knows how to do is problem solve. This is a related concept. Our brains evolved to chemically desire certain things, certain experiences, certain substances. And when we have 1,000 friends on Facebook, we're intellectually telling ourselves, I've made connections, I'm part of a tribe, I'm part of something bigger than myself. This is something that our brain desperately craves evolutionarily, because being social creatures is what allowed us to survive as a species. That's our superpower. And intellectually, we're convincing some part of ourselves, I've got 1,000 Facebook friends, I've joined a subreddit with similar interests, I'm on Book Talk and basically having a giant book club, and that makes me part of a community. But intuitively, our brains are like, well, yeah, but that's not real. And we're existing in this in-between space. We're training ourselves that things that aren't real are real, and our brains can't keep up, and we start to accidentally learn, well, maybe I'm not real. When we play an online video game with our friends and we collaborate to achieve something and we win, and it's because we worked together and we coordinated and we hunted down someone or something, or defeated a boss much stronger than any of our individual characters in the game, and we used our social abilities to overcome an obstacle seemingly stronger than us, we're meeting the chemical demands of our brain that craves social connection and hierarchy and collaboration, and that's why it quells that desire. That's why people have so much fun doing that. It meets the cravings of the substance addict that is your brain, and it shuts off what I call the Professor Hippie voice in the back of your head screaming, let me connect, let me achieve, I want to exist in the context of everything that came before me, I need serotonin, man. So we met our needs, we shut Professor Hippie up, we go to bed. But that sociality, it's not real, it's digital, and in my opinion, my theory, that's why we feel that funny feeling. That's what's causing it. We're drinking the idea of water. Almost everything has been digitized, commodified, quantified, and homogenized. Everything is a proxy. The middle school power struggle to become the most popular girl in school is now an observable, quantifiable follower count on TikTok. The development of your personality that you achieve by stealing a little bit of the personality from all your friends, that borrowing of slang and thought processes and perspectives and taste in art and sense of humor, that's done now in idolization of social media personalities. I teach middle school. A worryingly high number of these kids speak in catchphrase. It's like involuntary tics sometimes. Skibbity, skibbity, baby, grunk, riz, no, Ohio, bleep, cannot compute. Culture has been homogenized and digitized. Building a fort in your room with your friends is done on Minecraft. Playing basketball with your friends is done on 2K. Football on Madden. Playing dress up on The Sims. Putting on a play for your cousins is learning a TikTok dance. Doing a makeover on your sister is following a makeup tutorial for yourself on YouTube. Arguing with your friend over the hottest girl in whatever movie you just watched is now done en masse with 100,000 other people in the comment sections of whatever Instagram account for the promotion of the 5th sequel of whatever IP revival it is whose grave they're currently defiling. And it's not just kids on social media that I'm talking about. Our adult lives have also become proxies. Office meetings are on Zoom instead of around that crazy table and oh my god, Carol brought cupcakes. Walking down the hallway to shoot the shit with your coworkers become an email. Sending out wedding invitations or birthday party invites, that's a Facebook event. Sending out Christmas cards is done on the internet. Me, 40 years ago, having been the long-bearded naked guy on the street corner screaming about some incomprehensible religious doctrine I've created, has become this YouTube channel. I'm not gonna list every example, I'm sure you get the point. The problem is not that we're spending too much time on the computer or on our phones. I mean, I think that's part of the problem, but the deeper issue is that we're overriding our genetic coding by training ourselves to treat the digital world like the real world, and then hoping that it still works biologically speaking, chemically speaking. It's not that we've added a bunch of internet stuff to our day-to-day that we need to go back to doing things the hard way or whatever. It's that we've increasingly replaced the real world with the digital one. And that's how we've begun to feel digital, to feel like we're not human anymore. And here's the point at which most people in this space would begin talking about how the solution to all these problems is to completely unplug, to take off all your clothes and wander into the woods where you'll live forever, throw away your phone, learn to churn butter, buy every copy of Henry David Thoreau's Walden that you can find. This will solve all your problems, and it's very simple, man. All you have to do is something that's completely impossible that would disconnect you from your friends and your family, lose your job, remove a lot of the fun and productivity from your life. It's very simple. Well, I think that's really dumb. I think that existing in a binary world, a simple one where everything's black and white and the solutions to our problems are all or nothing, I think that's probably nice, but I think that it's just as dangerous as whatever the hell we're already doing. I made a whole video about the issue with this line of thinking. You can watch that by clicking this button after you watch the rest of this video. Oh God, my retention analytics, please don't click off this video. The issue, like I said, is not that we've added the internet into our lives, it's that we've replaced our lives. And so I think the first step in endeavoring to undo this awful, weird feeling that we're all experiencing is to just let the internet be additive again. Let it be a tool instead of a universe. I'm not advocating for the eradication of technology. I would never write this script by hand. It's almost 4,000 words. I'd rather die in a rubber fire. The premise of all this technology, the very reason we're so enticed to incorporate it into our lives in the first place is because it's way more efficient, right? It saves time. It makes tasks easier. So what we need to do to safeguard ourselves from this misdirection of our brains toward artificiality is to take all the time that we're saving and do some real stuff. We don't need to unplug entirely. We need to pull the plug halfway out. Okay, and I realize that's a horrible analogy, and if you pulled a plug halfway out, it would just continue to work until the connections hit the point at which they're not touching anymore, and then it would just be unplugged, but you get what I'm saying. If we're going to willfully participate in this illness that is the internet existence, we need to take our medicine. Because life is about balance. We're in this rapid expansion era of technology's integration with modern society, and it's unsustainable. And eventually, hopefully, we'll realize, oh God, what have we done to our children's brains with unfettered, unsupervised access to the internet? And we'll look back on this time period in the same way that we look back on the time period in which we let kids smoke cigarettes. And we'll adjust, societally speaking, maybe legislatively speaking. But in the meantime, we've got to make those adjustments preemptively. So, like I've mentioned before, I've made some changes, some more drastic and extreme than others, but my goal is to find the balance, not to work toward an unattainable goal of being a transcendentalist forest dweller in the year 2025. That's not possible, and part of the reason so many people never make a change is because we know that's not possible. So it's like, what's the point of trying to get there? And then we watch a 6-hour video essay about SpongeBob lore instead, and we second screen it and scroll TikTok the whole time we watch. What I've done, specifically, actionably speaking, is just make a collection of small steps. The most drastic, the hardest to stomach, is that other than YouTube, I did get off all social media. But I'm telling you, I am the FOMO captain of the universe. I was the last one to fall asleep at every sleepover I've ever been to. I went to Miami on my friend's 21st birthday with $17 in my bank account and stole from Miami hotel convenience stores to survive while I was there because I couldn't even entertain the thought of not going while all my friends go on this trip. I am so afraid of missing out, and that's what kept me from quitting social media. But I, like every other person I've ever watched or read anything from who has quit social media, miss nothing. For a while, I had the kind of involuntary autopilot, pull out my phone and swipe back and forth on my home screen for a while kind of thing, because I was so accustomed to pulling it out and opening Twitter. But I genuinely do not feel like I'm missing out on anything. And I'm not. Anything super important or interesting that my friends have seen on social media, they'll tell me about it. Oftentimes, I still hear more about what's going on Instagram or TikTok than I even want to. The only things I'm missing out on in removing myself from social media are the negative aspects of it. It's been the easiest addiction to break that I think there ever was. The only withdrawal symptom was habitually opening the calculator app on my phone a lot for a while. But other than that, the ways in which I've so desperately tried to feel human again, they're not nearly as drastic as they may sound. I bought my little flip phone to get away from my smartphone, but I still have group texting, I still have phone calls, I still get on YouTube on my computer and respond to probably too many comments. I still listen to music and podcasts. They're just downloaded onto my iPod instead of streamed on Spotify. I still watch some TV and movies on occasion. I just seek them out in specificity based on my friends' recommendations or my own research based on what I know to be my taste, instead of absent-mindedly opening the Netflix app and saying, okay, what looks good, and letting it recommend things to me. I still distract myself when I'm sitting in a doctor's office waiting room. I just do it with a book or my jailbroken Nintendo DS that I'll do a video on later. Or with writing something. The thing that has allowed me to start breaking this weird dissociative spell that's come over so many of us and start to feel like a human again is just moving from the passenger seat back into the driver's seat of my life. I've stopped letting the internet steal my attention and time, and I've started donating it. I'm thinking constantly about making sure I actually want to do what I'm doing in my free time. I'm prioritizing the narrative self instead of the experiential self, because sure, in the moment after a long day's work, it might be nice to shut my brain down and search #bodyroll challenge on TikTok and just drool for 2 hours, but I know intellectually that I don't want to do that. And if I don't want to do that, then how would I let that happen? If I'm not in charge of my own actions, then who is? And maybe that forfeiture of control, that jump into the passenger seat that we've all accidentally made, is why we don't feel human anymore. And maybe all we have to do is move over. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time.